Everybody, and we're just now flagging Luke that we've started the recording. So I'm Ginger Bowler. I'm talking to you from Broomfield, Colorado, from our brand new office we just moved into last week. We needed a bigger space, so we're happy to be here, and we have all this technology now, thanks to Luke, so we can bring you these presentations. Today, the presentation is on brain health and happiness. I'm assuming that everybody that's on this call or watching the recording either has a light therapy system already, is an authorized rep for one of the companies, probably Enlight, or is interested in considering light therapy for your life. So it's a modality that we absolutely count on. And at the end of the presentation on brain health, I will be going over the October specials and all the different packages for Enlight. So if you're interested in that, you'll stay on at the end. If you're just here to hear the presentation, then at the very end, after question and answers, you could go ahead and disconnect from the webinar. Most of you, I think, know something about me and my background, but I'll make it very short. I do have a doctorate in energy medicine, and I've been interested in health and natural healing all of my life, but I've been teaching in the field for 30 years. So I've been using the light therapy system that we're going to be talking about, or systems, I should say, for about 8 or 9 years now, and it's the simplest, easiest modality I've ever used in my life. And so that's why I think so many of us like it so much. So here we go. Today's presentation again is on brain health and happiness. Now I'll put this particular slide up on the screen because if you are one that has not yet gone to a demo or even used the light therapy device, then you're going to want to connect with your authorized representative, the person that introduced you to the Enlight system, and have a free demo. The demos are only 20 minutes long, and it feels wonderful. And this is an example of one of the bigger systems on the screen right now. Now, my company is called Energy Events Global, and we're in Colorado. We are an authorized representative for Enlight, but on this call or listening to the recordings are many of the people that are on our team for Enlight, and you may be one of those, or you may have been invited by one of those. So at the end of the presentation, again, when I'm telling how you can have light therapy in your life, you're going to want to go back to the person that invited you to transact any business with them. Okay, so on that note, we'll move on. And I just now said this, so let's go to the next one. I put this up here because a lot of times people want to know what angle are we coming from with the light therapy. Yesterday, and depending on when you're actually watching this presentation, we have recorded Marcy Denton doing the presentation on light therapy and the science behind light therapy and how to talk to your friends and family about it. But I even though I will be talking a lot about the science and or some about light therapy, my real gig in life is understanding energy. This is one of the books that I wrote called Listening and Communicating with Energy. And I had the great good fortune of having an amazing healer, Hannah Kroger. She had many credentials, a naturopathic physician, a nurse, etc., minister, you name it. And Hannah passed away in 1998. She was an elderly woman, but she was an authentic healer, and I chased her around the planet trying to figure out what she understood that I didn't understand. And 30 years ago, I remember her telling me that in the future, healing would come from color, sound, and light. And I remember thinking, oh, that is ridiculous. Because 30 years ago, that was just way too much of a stretch. But here we are about to do a presentation of a system that utilizes color, sound, and light. So this book, you can go online to energyeventsglobal.com and order the book from us. You can call us or get it from Amazon. So how I came to light therapy is not because I had pain in my body or that I was sick. And a lot of your clients, for those of you all that are practitioners, many of your clients that come to you, of course they're coming because they have some sort of pain or some sort of sickness. And pain can absolutely hijack our lives. But that wasn't the situation for me. When I was introduced to light therapy, I had an event center in Louisville, Colorado, and one of my friends needed an office space, and it was a big space, so I had room, and she had the light therapy device. So at the time, it was about a $5,000 purchase for a little 3-port controller and 3 pads. And so I didn't need another $5,000 toy. I already had a $24,000 biofeedback device, a Vibe machine, a $5,000 purchase, and all kinds of other toys. I did not need another $5,000 device. So, but she kept wanting to do these demos on me, and she kept putting it on channel B, which she said was for calming, because it had a channel A and a channel B and a channel C, and then 1 through 7. And she wanted to put me on B. And I said, well, if I want to calm down, I'll just meditate. And so I knew she was trying to sell me the device, and I knew that I didn't need it. That was my story. Well, one day there were, I realized how many people came in and out of our office to get a light therapy session on this channel C, which was for anti-aging and rejuvenation, supposedly. So channel A was for very physical things, and channel B was for calm, sleep, bedtime, and channel C supposedly was for anti-aging and rejuvenation. Well, I was interested in anti-aging. So so one day, when no one was in the office in the center, I snuck on over to her little cubicle, and I put the face mask on my throat for anti-aging reasons, for the loose skin on my neck. And 20 minutes later, as you all know, most of you all watching this, the system just shuts itself down after 20 minutes. And I went in the mirror and, looked, and I really couldn't tell any difference in 20 minutes. I don't really know what I thought I was going to see. But I then left the office, got in the car, and I was driving over to Whole Foods for lunch. And a song came on the radio, and I started singing. And I had not been able to sing a single note for 2 years. I had small children, and I wanted to be able to sing Happy Birthday and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. But I could not make the notes connect when I would attempt to sing. And so here I was, after this light therapy session, 20 minutes, able to sing. So one would think, well, I would think automatically it had something to do with the light therapy device. But no, that is not what I thought. I thought, what did I eat today? Because what you eat can affect your singing voice. And then I couldn't think of anything different that I had eaten. So I thought, well, what did I drink today? Because something you drink couldn't affect your singing voice. And again, I couldn't think of anything different. And I thought about the light therapy, but I thought, no, I've seen plenty miracles in the natural healing and energy medicine field in which we, work. But that was still a stretch for me, that in 20 minutes on an anti-aging channel, that would have somehow given me the ability to connect notes again. So for 4.5 days, I could sing. And on that afternoon of that 5th day, the grovel came back into my voice, and the notes would not connect. And I had one of these ridiculous moments where, I'm talking to God saying, now, if you're going to take my voice back from me, I would have rather you didn't even give it to me to start with. Now that is really ridiculous, like as if God is reaching down and snatching our stuff. But anyway, it is the thought that I had. And, but I thought, well, you know what? as a scientist, which I'm slightly, if it had anything to do with that light therapy, it should be repeatable. So I went back to the office. I went back to the little cubicle. I snuck on over again, got the face mask, put it on my throat, put it on the channel C, did a 20-minute session, and my voice was restored, and I've been able to sing ever since. So, not everybody wants to be in light therapy or have light therapy because they're in physical pain. Some of us are in emotional or spiritual pain that this helps. And it was a very emotional thing for me not to be able to sing, because I've always loved to sing. I was never a soloist. I was always just in the choir, but singing is very important. And it certainly was very important to me. So sometimes what a person wants out of having light therapy, you might be surprised. It might be that it just makes them feel happier, like our new Brilliant Light cap. When I put that on my head, I just feel happier. And is it because I have pain in my head? No, it's not about pain for me. I rarely have pain in my physical body. So a lot of what we see with the light therapy is that even though the system is, the Enlight system's FDA cleared for pain and circulation, the reality is a lot of times the pain that we're being relieved of has to do with other levels of our reality or existence. Okay, so before we get too far into the brain presentation, most of you all have at least heard that at Energy Events Global, we do have a division called LETS, and that's our Light Energy Training Seminars. The very next, so we certify, we prepare people for certification. I think that's a better way to say it, for board certification through BANUS, which is the Board of Advanced Natural Health Sciences. And so in the certification program, it's a 3-day program that you come to, a live event. We do have it online, also hosted with another company, but right now we're talking about the live events. So our next one is next week. Is that next week? Or the 22nd through the 24th of October in Orlando, Florida. It is the 3 days after the Enlight Medical conference. So that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and ours is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the very same location. Then December 5 through 7, we're in Broomfield, Colorado, right here in our office. We have enough room to have a 14-person class. So we're about a little over halfway full, I think, for that. But if you want to register for that, you just, either of these classes, you go online to energyeventsglobal.com and click on the Let's tab and register for the class. We are taking the program out on the road next year. And so we'll be in Syracuse, New York. We'll be in Dallas, Texas. We'll be in a couple of different places next year. So on to brain health. Isn't this interesting? If you look at this slide is Photonic Therapy Institute is who hosts our online class right now. And this is one of the slides that Kay gave me or put in this presentation. And I didn't know this, did you know that like horseback riding is the leading cause of sports-related traumatic brain injury? That's incredible. Okay. So we're going to be talking about lighting our way to a life without pain. And again, it's like on many different levels. This is a slide that Kay put in here, and I just thought this was fascinating look at an Alzheimer's brain as compared to a normal brain. Now, a lot of what we're going to be looking at a little bit later in the presentation are some of the Seroscan scans, but that's just a nice visual. Well, I don't know if it's nice, but it's a visual. So every living thing needs light. Light is the mother of all light, of all life. So I think we all know that, and we know that sunlight delivers photons to plant cells. But maybe we didn't know that light therapy donates photons to living cells. So light therapy is good for me, and it's good for my cells. In 1998, these three physicians won the Nobel Prize for discovering what nitric oxide does in the body. Now, nitric oxide is a signaling molecule in the cardiovascular system, and nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide, that's laughing gas. Nitric oxide is what's released in really significant quantities when we put light therapy on the skin. And there was, some years ago, there was a research project done where it was determined that at least 60 diodes of high quality light put in a small area on the skin is what it would take to release significant amounts of nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is considered the miracle molecule of the body. And these physicians, these that you're seeing, these doctors that you're seeing on the screen right now, again, they won the Nobel Prize as recently as 1998. That's only 20 years ago. So, well, what did they think it was before? Well, they knew it was some sort of gas, and they called it a gassing off effect, but they really didn't know what it was doing. And now we know as the miracle molecule. And if you Google not nitric oxide, if you just do a Google search, you'll see that in the presence of nitric oxide, there are so many physiological processes in the body that are enhanced that it boggles the mind. That how can one gas like this or one signaling molecule be responsible for making the body this efficient? So, for example, some of the things that you'll see in the Google search is that in the presence of nitric oxide, collagen is stimulated. That's why it's anti-aging. It's a vasodilator, so circulation is increased. It reduces pain. And inflammation. So where there's inflammation, there's pain. So it reduces pain. But nitric oxide also stimulates a process called angiogenesis. And what that literally means is the regrowth of tissue, specifically like capillaries. You know, back in 30 years ago, my teacher, Hannah Kroger, and some of your teachers, for some of you all, she was your teacher. Hannah had said that in the future, she told me this, and the students, in the future, you'll go to the hospital to regrow your organs instead of having them removed. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. I kind of sort of believe that. Well, now we're seeing regenerative therapies all the time coming up in science, how much progress is being made in this area. But I remember one of the first presentations I saw on light therapy was by Dr. Thomas Burke. And he's one who did so much research on our kind of light therapy. And he said, I remember him saying, every time you use your light therapy device, you're stimulating angiogenesis. So the first time you, let's say, put a pad right here for the 20 to 30 minutes, it would grow 1 capillary. The next time it's going to grow, same place, going to grow 2 capillaries. The next time it's going to be 4. The next time it's going to be 8. And that absolutely the body is regenerating with the continued use of a device like we have the privilege to use. But again, in the presence of nitric oxide, other things are stimulated. For example, it supports a process called phagocytosis. So what is phagocytosis? That means that it makes that nitric oxide creating or supporting phagocytosis means it's making an unfriendly environment for pathogens. Now, we can't claim, according to our FDA clearance for Enlight, that our system does any of these things, okay? But we know through our Google search that in the presence of nitric oxide, that nitric oxide, that these things are supported. So little by little, claims will be able to be added as the research is there to back it up, and which there is over 5,000 published studies on this kind of light therapy. But also as these different things are being able to be added to the FDA 510K registration with the different manufacturers. So we're about to watch a video. Now, this particular video, I really want to emphasize this because I've had some people say, now, wait a minute, he didn't talk about light therapy. This is not a video on light therapy. This is but it is a video that changed the focus, my personal focus of how I work with the human body, because I have been either an instructor or a practitioner for almost 30 years in the holistic health field. And we paid a lot of attention to a lot of things, but I didn't focus enough on the brain's health until one of my students sent me Dr. Amen's video. Now, it is only 14 minutes long, so if you've seen this be a time you could take a break, but I've seen this video at least 50 times, and I hear something different every time. And when I saw this video, I really did have an aha moment. I was like, oh my God. When I listened to what he said, and he showed all the images and Seroscan scans, the SPECT imaging, I realized that our light therapy, that if the lack of circulation was, or traumatic brain injury was what was causing all these behavioral issues or diseases or conditions, that our light therapy device was a big part of the answer. Because also I was becoming aware of the important work that Seroscan, which is a brain imaging company here, started here locally in Colorado, but now they have other places around the country, Texas, Florida, and a couple of other places. But I was aware of some of the scans they were doing pre and post to light therapy, and the amazing, incredible results. So part of what we're going to go over in this presentation is I'll show you one of the research projects and where you can get the white paper on traumatic brain injury using light therapy and using our device. So now we're going to watch Dr. Amen's video. This is on YouTube. It's called The Most Important Lesson from 83,000 Brain Scans. Dr. Amen is in his program when he was doing this. Now, this is an older video, and there's many videos of Dr. Amen on YouTube. This was a TED Talk, and I love TED Talks because they're 12 to 14-minute talks from experts in their field. And so you can just get this online. But if you look at some of his longer videos, he even goes through his program of nutrients and everything that he uses. Now, having said that, one of the other very cool things about light therapy that I love is that, I have a background in nutrition with Hannah's work with herbs and homeopathics and all that, and that I know that when we couple some of the nutrients with the light therapy, you really have a winning combination, because light therapy, as it's increasing the circulation, is helping to deliver the nutrients to the cell more efficiently to the cells, and taking the toxins away from the cells more efficiently. So, I like coupling it with this. I know a lot of you all use essential oils, and you're doing the same thing, or other modalities. But Dr. Amen has his own protocol, and you can go and look that up online. But let's watch the video now.
someone in my family became seriously suicidal, and I took her to see a wonderful psychiatrist. Over time, I realized that if he helped her, which he did, it would not only save her life, but it would also help her children and even her future grandchildren, as they would be shaped by someone who is happier and more stable. I fell in love with psychiatry because I realized it had the potential to change generations of people. In 1991, I went to my first lecture on brain SPECT imaging. SPECT is a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and activity. It looks at how your brain works. SPECT was presented as a tool to help psychiatrists get more information to help their patients. In that one lecture, my two professional loves, medical imaging and psychiatry, came together and quite honestly revolutionized my life. Over the next 22 years, my colleagues and I would build the world's largest database of brain scans related to behavior on patients from 93 countries. SPECT basically tells us three things about the brain: good activity, too little, or too much. Here is a set of healthy SPECT scans. The image on the left shows the outside surface of the brain, and a healthy scan shows full, even, symmetrical activity. The color is not important, it's the shape that matters. In the image on the right, red equals the areas of high activity, and in a healthy brain, they're typically in the back part of the brain. Here's a healthy scan compared to someone who had 2 strokes. You can see the holes of activity. Here's what Alzheimer's looks like, where the back half of the brain is deteriorated. Did you know that Alzheimer's disease actually starts in the brain 30 to 50 years before you have any symptoms? Here's a scan of traumatic brain injury. Your brain is soft and your skull is really hard. Or drug abuse. The real reason not to use drugs, they damage your brain. Obsessive compulsive disorder, where the front part of the brain typically works too hard so that people cannot turn off their thoughts. And epilepsy, where we frequently see areas of increased activity. In 1992, I went to an all-day conference on brain SPECT imaging. It was amazing and mirrored our own early experience using SPECT in psychiatry. But at that same meeting, researchers started to complain loudly that clinical psychiatrists like me should not be doing scans, that they were only for their research. Being a maverick and having clinical experience, I thought that was a really dumb idea. Without imaging, psychiatrists then and even now make diagnoses like they did in 1840 when Abraham Lincoln was depressed, by talking to people and looking for symptom clusters. Imaging was showing us there was a better way. Did you know that psychiatrists are the only medical specialists that virtually never look at the organ they treat? Think about it. Cardiologists look, neurologists look, orthopedic doctors look, virtually every other medical specialties look, psychiatrists guess. Before imaging, I always felt like I was throwing darts in the dark at my patients and had hurt some of them, which horrified me. There is a reason that most psychiatric medications have black box warnings. Give them to the wrong person and you can precipitate a disaster. Early on, our imaging work taught us many important lessons, such as illnesses like ADHD, anxiety, depression, and addictions are not single or simple disorders in the brain. They all have multiple types. For example, here are two patients who have been diagnosed with major depression that had virtually the same symptoms, yet radically different brains. One had really low activity in the brain. The other one had really high activity. How would you ever know what to do for them unless you actually look? Treatment needs to be tailored to individual brains, not clusters of symptoms. Our imaging work also taught us that mild traumatic brain injury was a major cause of psychiatric illness that ruined people's lives, and virtually no one knew about it because they would see psychiatrists for things like temper problems, anxiety, depression, and insomnia, and they would never look, so they would never know. Here's a scan of a 15-year-old boy who fell down a flight of stairs at the age of 3. And even though he was unconscious for only a few minutes, there was nothing mild about the enduring effect that injury had on this boy's life. When I met him at the age of 15, he had just been kicked out of his 3rd residential treatment program for violence. He needed a brain rehabilitation program, not just more medication thrown at him in the dark or behavior therapy, which, if you think about it, is really cruel. To put him on a behavior therapy program when behavior is really an expression of the problem, it's not the problem. Researchers have found that undiagnosed brain injuries are a major cause of homelessness, drug and alcohol abuse, depression, panic attacks, ADHD, and suicide. We are in for a pending disaster with the hundreds of thousands of soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and virtually no one is looking at the function of their brain. As we continued our work with SPECT, the criticism grew louder, but so did the lessons. Judges and defense attorneys sought our help to understand criminal behavior. To date, we have scanned over 500 convicted felons, including 90 murderers. Our work taught us that people who do bad things often have troubled brains. That was not a surprise. But what did surprise us was that many of these brains could be rehabilitated. So here's a radical idea. What if we evaluated and treated troubled brains rather than simply warehousing them in toxic, stressful environments? In my experience, we could save tremendous amounts of money by making these people more functional, so when they left prison, they could work, support their families, and pay taxes. Dostoevsky once said, "A society should be judged not by how well it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals." Instead of just crime and punishment, we should be thinking about crime evaluation and treatment. So after 22 years and 83,000 scans, the single most important lesson my colleagues and I have learned is that you can literally change people's brains. And when you do, you change their life. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better, and we can prove it. My colleagues and I performed the first and largest study on active and retired NFL players, showing high levels of damage in these players at a time when the NFL said they didn't know that playing football caused long-term brain damage. Fact was, they didn't want to know. That was not a surprise. I think if you get most thoughtful 9-year-olds together and you talk about the brain is soft, about the consistency of soft butter, it's housed in a really hard skull that has many sharp bony ridges, 28 out of 30 9-year-olds would go, probably a bad idea for your life. But what really got us excited was the second part of the study, where we put players on a Brain Smart program and demonstrated that 80% of them could improve in the areas of blood flow, memory, and mood, that you are not stuck with the brain you have. You can make it better on a Brain Smart program. How exciting is that? I am so excited. Reversing brain damage is a very exciting new frontier, but the implications are really much wider. Here is the scan of a teenage girl who has ADHD, who was cutting herself, failing in school, and fighting with her parents. When we improved her brain, she went from D's and F's to A's and B's and was much more emotionally stable. Here's a scan of Nancy. Nancy had been diagnosed with dementia, and her doctor told her husband that he should find a home for her because within a year she would not know his name. But on an intensive brain rehabilitation program, Nancy's brain was better, as was her memory. And 4 years later, Nancy still knows her husband's name. Or my favorite story to illustrate this point is Andrew, a 9-year-old boy who attacked a little girl on the baseball field for no particular reason, and at the time was drawing pictures of himself hanging from a tree and shooting other children. Andrew was Columbine, Aurora, and Sandy Hook waiting to happen. Most psychiatrists would have medicated Andrew as they did Eric Harris and the other mass shooters before they committed their awful crimes. But SPECT imaging taught me that I had to look at his brain and not throw darts in the dark at him to understand what he needed. The SPECT scan showed a cyst the size of a golf ball occupying the space of his left temporal lobe. No amount of medication or therapy would have helped Andrew. When the cyst was removed, his behavior completely went back to normal, and he became the sweet, loving boy he always wanted to be. Now, 18 years later, Andrew, who is my nephew, owns his own home, is employed, and pays taxes. Because someone bothered to look at his brain. He has been a better son and will be a better husband, father, and grandfather. When you have the privilege of changing someone's life,
Here we go.
you not only change his or her life, you have the opportunity to change generations to come. I'm Dr. Dan.
Okay, well, I think that we'll just go to the next slide. And, oops. So I think that that video probably had the same impact on most of you all as it had on me to actually see. And these are older images of SPECT scans. So I do want to draw your attention right now to the way that you spell SPECT, S-P-E-C-T. It's on this slide that's on your screen right now. And it's a relatively new type of imaging that is a 3D imaging of the brain. And the company here locally that I spoke of earlier is called CereScan, C-E-R-E-S-C-A-N. You can, if you're someone that feels like you need to have a brain scan or have someone in your life, would certainly check out that form of imaging. That's what Dr. Amen was using, and the physician who's the head of our board, Dr. Greg Hipskin, he was one of the physicians who read these SPECT scans. So what you have on your screen right now is the top of the brain and the underside of the brain. And wherever you see gray is what's normal on the brain images. And so if you look at the top and go all the way to the bottom, you can see that the scan is getting worse and worse the more color. It's not that color, it's that gray is the only place that's normal. So on the very bottom, you can see there's almost no area of that brain that is showing that it's normal. So here's Dr. Hipskind. One of my friends, took a shot of him at one of our conferences. He's amazing, and he was actually talking about one of the research projects that they were doing. And somebody took this picture with the iPhone. I don't even know who took it, but they sent it to me. And so you can see all the way across at the top there that these were NFL players that they were doing research on, and there was almost no part of the brain, that was showing normal activity. And then I honestly don't remember how far into the research they were, but as you can see on the bottom part of that of the picture, that how much more normal those scans are coming out, and that is with the use of our light therapy device. So Dr. Hipskind and the medical board, our medical board, has published a number of white papers. That means research papers. This one's on traumatic brain injury. If you are an AR with Inlight, go into your back office and you can download this and send it out to all your people. And if you're not an AR and you don't have access to that, you could go ahead and email your AR from Inlight or us. You could email ginger@energyeventsglobal.com, and we can attach this downloaded paper for you. There are other white papers now in the back office as the research is coming more and more out with our system. But like I said earlier in this presentation, that light therapy is not new. It has been used for decades. And probably who's done the most research on light therapy is Harvard and NASA and University of Colorado. And there are many other organizations right now, but we certainly have a lot of research coming out, and this one was on traumatic brain injury. And we have a lot of information. So this screen right here, we're getting a lot of great information. So I want to pause for a moment with this screen so that you all can start to read. Just pick a couple of sections of the brain to read. If a person had an injury to that part of the brain, so for example, the cerebellum, if there was injury to the cerebellum, that can result in the loss of the ability to coordinate fine movement, loss of the ability to walk, to reach out, and to grab objects. So, this kind of takes the mystery out of a person's changed behaviors. When you can say, oh my goodness, that I can identify that their behavior changed so much after they fell down the stairs or after a certain thing happened to them, and you just go look at the different areas of the brain that it affects. And well, of course, I think we should light up the whole brain, but not everybody's got a new brilliant light cap. So we want to do what we can to restore function to that part of the brain. And we thank Betty Clooney. That's her information. This is where we got actually Isabel sent this to me. She found it somewhere. So we certainly want to give Betty Clooney, the Betty Clooney Foundation, thanks for providing us with something that we feel is so useful. Many of you know this story already. We'll just spend a couple of minutes on it. This is Tim Crumry. He was a he was an NFL player on the Cincinnati Bengals. He was also coached with different NFL teams, etc. He had a lot of traumatic brain injury. And so I saw him speak at a conference. A lot of us saw him speak at one of our conferences. And on the next slide, you'll see that there was on the next slide, you'll see that the Cincinnati magazine did an article on him. And he was talking at this event about, simple things like him, his ability to smell again and remember dreams and things that he couldn't even do. So on the very first night after having a 30-minute session, he dreamed. And he said there were no fights in the trenches, there was no violence. Instead, it was high school coaches and teammates. And he had said that he couldn't even remember the name of his high school coach until he started using light therapy. So by the time, we met Tim Crumry at this event, he had had so many changes to his life. Now, a lot of what happens with traumatic brain injury, as we know from a lot of the studies that have been done with the war veterans and NFL players and anybody with traumatic brain injury, so a lot of times they're suicidal depression, they sometimes are very aggressive, or they have a very hard time socializing and sleeping and etc. So plus, if we think about all the age-related decline conditions to do with the brain, Alzheimer's, dementia, and all that I don't know about you all, but it is frightening for me when I listen to people, to my peers, planning their residency in I don't even know what you call them anymore. And then I call them nursing homes, but nursing homes or old folks homes. Okay, there's all kind of politically correct terms that I should be using for that, but it's like we have a consciousness, it seems, in our society that, well, this is just what happens to us. We forget our kids and we forget our names and we forget what we did, and no, that is not. Our bodies are the most brilliant computer ever designed, according to Hannah Kroger's favorite quote. There will never be a computer smarter than the human body. Given the proper information or or encouragement, the body heals itself. Well, light is the proper information. It's some of the proper information. Every cell of the body needs light. And so if you think about it, if our system being FDA cleared for pain and circulation, if you increase circulation to any system, whether it's your social life, your financial life, or the circulation in your body, if you increase circulation, you're going to improve that system. So our bodies were made to live to be about 130 years old. And, years ago, nobody believed that anymore. Well, now we're hearing all the time of people living into to be 100. And so, we're moving in the right direction. On the screen now, you'll see just a lot of different things that typical uses for light therapy. So I'll just pause for about 30 seconds and let you read the list. There's plenty more. Okay. So one of the things we all like about light therapy is that it's a system the entire family can use. And, if your spouse uses the system, it's not using it up. It's going to last you for years and years. These diodes in the Enlight system are of such high quality that if we left them on, they'd last for about 20 years. Now the pads and the cords might need to be replaced, but the lights should last for a very long time. And why do we want light therapy? Because we all want a better quality of life. We want to be happy. The presentation was called Brain Health and Happiness. When we feel well and we feel healthy and we've lightened up quite literally, then we're happy. And that's what we all want, is happiness. This is a 101-year-old man. This was some years ago. I did a trade show, and his daughter, the one on the left, every day, twice a day, rolled him up to our booth to get his little free demo. And at the end of the 3 days, this little dude who he was first so scrunched over in the wheelchair like this. By the 3rd day, not only was he sitting up straight, he jumped out of the wheelchair and he started running down the aisle. And the daughter is literally chasing him with the wheelchair saying, "Get back in, get back in." And he's saying, "I just got out of that damn thing. I'm not getting back in." And so it was, but look how proud this guy is. I mean, he got his life back, right? Now the daughter, God bless her. She was so happy that Daddy could run down the aisle at this moment, but look how proud he is. So that was just really awesome. Okay, so how can you have light therapy in your life? And this is the part of the seminar that I said that if you already have light therapy and you're not interested in looking at the 13 different systems and things that we have, then we'll just say goodbye at this moment and thank you for watching the webinar. Please share it. That it is recorded. So, but how can you have light therapy? You can have paid sessions with a certified light therapist. That's somebody that's gotten certified. You can rent. Most of the authorized representatives for Enlight have a rental program. If not, they're probably working on getting systems to rent. You can purchase your own system. Of course, we think everybody should have a light therapy system in their home. Or you can make sure one of your friends or family members buys a system so you have one to use. So now we're going to go over the packages. In the beginning here, and I'm going to fly through them because we're almost out of time. But the first one, this is our newest product, the Brilliant Light Cap at $1,295. It is, we just did a whole presentation on brain health. So this is going to light up the entire brain at one time. Some of the research, when research studies were not using a cap, they were just using a few pads, they weren't getting enough light to this part of the brain, and that's so important to the central nervous system. And so some of the results, though, there was about a 70% improvement with the participants. Why wasn't there 100%? And one of the things that they realized was, that we needed to light up this part of the brain, and that Brilliant Light Cap does that. Now, you'll notice in the next few packages that we're showing that when you put the $1,295 light cap in with a 6-port system, you're actually getting it for right at $995. So you're saving about $300 when you get it as part of a system. This is now Enlight's considered the Rolls Royce of light therapy by many people. And this is the Rolls Royce of our Rolls Royce. Okay, this is the biggest system we have at $59.95. In the center there, you'll see that it has 2 different controllers, a 2-port and a 6-port controller. What those ports mean is how many places you can plug a pad into. Now, with Enlight, every pad interfaces with every controller. So you don't have to worry about that part. It's just which controller and what pad. Which controllers and what pad, yes, how many you can plug in. So in the 2-port controller, in both controllers, with both controllers, you're still going to get the same good light therapy. The difference in the controllers, obviously, is that you can plug in more pads in the bigger one, but also the 6-port has some additional frequencies that the 2-port does not have. The 2-port has a couple of the Dr. Nogier's frequencies, Paul Nogier, that's Nogier. You can look that up online, and the harmonics of his frequencies. And then the 6-port has all of that, plus the solfeggio frequencies in channel B and C, which are musical tones, and those have shown to be beneficial. So this is our Diamond Plus system plus the Brilliant Light Cap. Again, it's got the cap, it's got all these pads, less pads than the other ones, two of the large pads less. But it still has the two controllers, and the two controller system is really important for a practitioner, especially, or someone wanting to share a system with a friend or a loved one. At $39.95, you can see that you have the large pad and the medium pad, that's called the body pad and the local, plus that face mask and the brilliant light cap for $39.95. Here's just, now the light cap does take 2 ports to run it. So this 2-port controller and the light cap, that's at $19.95 for anybody suffering with a traumatic brain injury or anything to do with the brain. This is popular for them, but that's all that can be plugged into that at any one time to that 2-port controller at $19.95. Now we're moving into systems that don't have the brilliant light cap. This is a 6-port 4-pad pane. And as you can see, it has the body pad, and then to the right, it's got the local pad. Those are red and infrared. The tall, skinny one is a 180 tri-light, meaning that it has all 3 wavelengths, red, infrared, and blue. And all of our pads have infrared. You can't see them with the naked eye, except the face mask, the one that looks like an eye mask. And that only has red and blue. So again, all of them have red and have infrared. So here's the 6-port 4-pad podiatric. It doesn't have a cap. It doesn't have a face mask. What it does have is 2 boot pads, which can be used anywhere on the body. But you'll notice that those diodes are further apart because it's so often used for neuropathy, where with neuropathy, often we want to return the circulation a little bit slower, just for the pain level, than to put the feet on these other pads. Okay. The next one is a 2-port 2-pad pane, and it is a nice price point at $12.95 with a local and a body pad in red and infrared. Now we have a 2-port 2-pad for skin. The reason this one is for skin really is because that wavelength, the blue is, it's the depth of penetration. So the blue light penetrates surface about this far into the body. Let's see. Whereas the red's more like this and infrared's more like, this all the way through. So that's the difference. Here's a nice little price point. If you bought these 2 items separately, it would be $300 more, but Enlight wanted to make sure that people had some way to get into the system, and a lot of people cannot afford thousands of dollars, but they can afford $9.95, and this is a good place to start, and they can always add another pad later on down the road as they can afford it. Okay, now this is, again, we're going back to the Platinum system, but you'll notice the reason this one's $1,000 cheaper, it's got the 2 controllers, it's got all the 6 pads, but it doesn't have the brilliant light cap, and that's why it's $1,000 cheaper. The next one is the expandable. This is probably the most popular one for home use because of the price point at $29.95. And then the little travel system, a lot of people can afford the bigger packages, but they maybe travel all the time for work. They need something light. And so this is a local pad, a 132, and a face mask for $12.50. Here's the podiatric system with the 2 boot pads. Again, you can use those boot pads any place. We like to use them across the chest like this and under the armpits for the lymphatic system, and at the groin area here for the lymphatic system. But you can use it around your neck. You can use it any place for anything. Some people put it between their legs. Okay, we'll leave that one alone. Okay, so here we go. This is the October special. This is 2018 that we're doing this presentation, and this is a manufacturer's special. It's Customer Appreciation Month at Enlight. And so for existing customers, you already have your system, you already have your controller. You can buy one of the Painbuster 180s, that's the long skinny, in either blue and infrared or red and infrared, and get one free. For new customers who don't have a controller, you can buy any 6-port system, any one of them, from $29.95 to $59.95, and receive one free Painbuster 2. Again, that's a $450 value. So again, as a reminder, call your authorized representative to transact and get your system and take advantage of these great specials. If we happen to be that authorized representative, on your screen you can see our contact information. I'm really good at texting, 720-331-4385. If you shoot me a text, I usually respond faster to text than anything else, but you can also email me or call me. And we thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay.